Okay, you entrepreneurs, this one is for you. I get a chance in this video to find out about how you can thrive in a world that's changing constantly. You need to think like an entrepreneur, the entrepreneurial you. And that's the title of the book by the author Dorie Clark. I spoke with her. She is delightful. She's brilliant. She's witty. She's fun and funny. And more importantly, she's got ideas that can really help you. They can help you to achieve and thrive no matter what's happening. Multiple streams of income. She shows you how to adapt to this world. She's going to tell you how to do that. So join me now for this interview about entrepreneurial you with author Dorie Clark. We hear all the time the world has changed. It's not the way that we thought it was before, and what we learned that worked years ago, however many years that might be for each of us, it's different today. And there's a book that I just read that I got to tell you really helped me enormously. Now, I say that very carefully because, as a journalist, they taught us in journalism school to sit back and go, yeah, right, we're jaded like that. But this book, coming from this wonderful lady who wrote it, is going to help you a lot. The lady joining us is Dorie Clark, and the name of the book is Entrepreneurial You. Dorie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, Terry, I'm so glad to have a chance to chat with you again.
Well, you outdid yourself. I mean, you've done books before that I've read and really like them, and I had a chance to interview you. But now on this one right here, matter of fact, I'm just going to hold this up the screen. There it is, Entrepreneurial You. You talk to us about what's going on in the world today and the way things are a little bit different. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do here, let me just share my screen with you. We'll use that wonders of technology and technology coming together when it works. Boy, I'll tell you, it's really nice. And here we are. We're in the book right now, and I love this. In the prologue, the very first sentence you have in the book of why you wrote the book, you say, it's the dirty secret of today's entrepreneurial economy. And I'm thinking, oh, what could this be, et cetera. And then you really get nitty gritty with it, where you say, it's not about being excellent and even being well known and respected in your field. That's just not enough. And I thought, Dorie, these were the two things. You want to be really good and then be well known. Everybody knows you, get the word out and all that kind of thing. But you're telling us it's a different world today. Talk to us about that, why it is, and what kind of world we're in today.
Absolutely, Terry. So it's true. One of the things that I had to discover when I was starting my business 11 years ago as a marketing strategy consultant is the minute that I plunged in, I realized there's just so much competition. You have to differentiate yourself. And so I focused on that for a long time. But what I came to understand is something that really was illuminated to me through a conversation that I had with a guy named Doc Searles, who's a well-known internet theorist. And he talked about the distinction between the way things used to be, which is you make money by doing something, and the way that things increasingly are now, which is that you make money because of something. And it's a subtle distinction, but it's an important one. So, for instance, I used to be a journalist. It's pretty simple, right? You write a story, you get paid for a story. You know all about that.
Exactly. That's the way it works.
Yes. But today, increasingly, people are journalists, who are unpaid, right? Lots of us are creating all kinds of content. Even, neither of us is getting paid for doing this video. But
you're not getting paid? Oh.
I know. It's such a bargain, right?
Oh, wow. What a concept. Yeah, you're right.
And so a lot of the things that used to get paid for in the past have been demonetized in some ways. And so if we just called it a day, it would be a pretty sad economy. It's like, oh, well, I guess all that money, all that earning power is evaporated. But the trick is there's actually more potential and more opportunity than ever. You just have to learn how to harness it. And that's the making money because of. It's understanding how to monetize on the back end and create multiple revenue streams. And that is a very different process than just being good at what you do. It's literally learning the structure of how people make money these days and diving in and understanding various business models. And that's what I really tried to do in writing Entrepreneurial You, was do an analysis of how top professionals, top entrepreneurs are making money today in very specific ways, and lay it out so that regular folks can see that and say, that seems like a doable path for me, and hopefully just raise the boats for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Well, matter of fact, let me go more in depth on that one because what you're saying is so important. We realize that, but I think we need to actually voice it. You do a lot of work for many different publications. One of them that I've read your articles in and love is a Harvard Business Review. And I understand that they pay you, it's zero. Is that right?
that is
I
that
mean,
is
we're getting
true.
really nitty gritty here, but then the question would be, well, then why would you do that? Why would you ever write there? How would you possibly get paid because you wrote in Harvard Business Review? We've got some ideas, but tell us what's going on with this.
Yeah, and you'll actually note that there is an inverse correlation between the strength of somebody's brand or some entity's brand and them actually paying you. If somebody reaches out and says, Terry, will you write an article for us? And they're completely unknown publication, odds are they probably will pay you because otherwise, why would you do it? But if there's something like the Harvard Business Review that people have heard of, they understand that they can get away with not paying you, which is kind of unfortunate. But the reason they can do that is that ultimately their brand is so strong, they are paying you in terms of your association with that brand. And so it is up to you to really be able to monetize that appropriately. And so when, for instance, you write for the Harvard Business Review or whatever, your field's professional equivalent of it is, it increases your stature by proxy, and it shows people, oh, you've been pre-vetted, you've been approved by, so to speak, by these preeminent institutions in your field. And so it makes it far more likely that you can make money from things like paid speaking engagements, coaching engagements, etc. It's taking that credibility and finding other ways to get paid for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, now, in your book, you talk about that a lot. You talk about the importance of diversification and multiple streams of income. Tell us about that and even some of the nitty gritty, how you're working with this to get paid for writing in many different publications and the things you do for free. How does that turn into money?
Yeah, so I currently, Terry, have 8 different income streams, and that is not something that that happened overnight. When I first started my business, I had one income stream, which is usually how it works for most people. I started in 2006 a business doing marketing strategy consulting, and so I would do marketing plans and social media plans for companies. That was how I made money. But over the past, let's say, 5 years, I really have made a very concerted focus to try and spread out the ways that I earned money, because I came to believe that it was really important in terms of both capturing more revenue but also diversifying. And so now the ways that I make money, there's still some consulting. There's also executive coaching, making money from writing books, doing keynote speaking, doing some business school teaching, having online courses, getting affiliate income, and doing live events. So those are the 8 income streams that I work on. And I try to advise people, don't overwhelm yourself. Don't say, oh, I'm going to create 10 this year. Think about adding 1 or at a maximum 2 new income streams per year. And then you can do it slowly. You can pace yourself. You can do it right. But that really should be the goal as you think about new ways to expand out and bring new revenue into your business.
Yeah, I think that's very important that we look at there's many different ways that we can, and we can make money, but what we've got to do is we've got to go about it in an intelligent way and realize, okay, the world has changed. The world is quite different right now. You talk about ways that you work with it, and I want to go in depth on some of these. You talk about doing some of the live events. I think that video is great. You and I are connecting here on Zoom. We're having a great time, and I love being able to connect with people there, but there's something magical that happens when you're in that conference, you're in that event. How is that being received, and how do you go about marketing that effectively?
Yeah, so I think your question is a great one because in some ways it speaks to the question of pacing, right? Now, everybody has, there's not one right way to do it. Everybody has sort of different strategies or different strengths or things that they're interested in. But for me, I knew that creating live events where you're bringing multiple people together, in many ways, that's just logistically harder to coordinate than something like a coaching engagement, where for coaching you need one person who's willing to buy from you. So I think in terms of how I paced my business, I started doing coaching and consulting early on because you didn't have to have a big following for that. Let's say you only know 5 people in the world. Well, if one of them thinks that what you know is valuable and is willing to pay for you, then you can have a coaching or a consulting business. Great. In order to be able to gather people for live events, specifically if it's either a large live event or if it might be a small event, but it's a high dollar event, that's much harder, right? Because you need a larger audience. You need a larger top of the funnel, so to speak, because it's going to be fewer people that are willing to to pay a reasonably high fee to do it. So I spent the past few years especially trying to build my email list in a very concerted fashion. And I've did this deliberately because I figured, okay, this is the best way to be communicating with people and building an audience that is large enough to support high dollar events. And so I built my email list up. I started, I kind of had a haphazard, email list that I had built over years, which I got very serious about in 2015. At that point, it was less than 10,000. It was like 9,500. Today, my email list is up, it's close to 50,000. It's
very nice.
Yeah, just 45-ish thousand, something like that. And it's so I'm reaching a lot of people, and as a result, I'm able to find the right folks. And so, for instance, as we're recording this, next week I'm going to be doing a mastermind retreat here in New York City, where I live, and it's a very intimate event. There's 10 people. It was capped at 10 people to make sure it's a very nice, manageable size. Folks are paying $3,500 a head to go to this event. It's a 2-day event, and so that's not something that most people can necessarily afford. But if you're able to create a following of people that's large enough so that some of them are able to do that, and then you especially have enough trust with, enough depth of a relationship where they say, yes, I know that this will be a good investment, then you're really able to do that and have it be an extraordinary experience.
Yeah, and you've built that trust over time by the writing that you do. They've read your articles in Harvard Business Review or elsewhere. They've seen your videos you put out. They listen to your podcast or whatever. Let's take it, suppose someone was there. I know you do a lot of coaching and consulting, helping people in a profound way. Let's pretend that we have someone who might be a school teacher. Let's say she's teaching elementary school and she's concerned that she might get laid off. There's problems with the school district, whatever. And she goes, oh no, what am I going to do? I'm only a school teacher. What kind of questions would you ask her to find out other alternative sources of income that she could begin to consider for developing her full revenue potential?
Well, one of the best first questions, Terry, is what are people already coming to you for? And what I mean by that is that for almost everybody, just in our own social circles, we have things that we're kind of known for, and that people are seeking us out for. And it could be that this mythical school teacher is a really great cook. And so her friends are always hitting her up for recipes. Or maybe she's a real tech aficionado. And so everybody's always like, should I get the latest iPhone? What model TV should I get? Whatever. And she knows all about that and she can advise them. Maybe she has a really great fashion sense. And so her friends are constantly dragging her to the mall or to stores to go shopping with them because she has such a good eye. Whatever it is, most people have some kind of skill like that where people are seeking them out even informally. That oftentimes can be the root of a business. Now, sometimes it has something to do with what your day job is. Maybe you're an IT consultant, and so therefore you know lots about computers, and so your friends are helping you. Sometimes it might not have anything to do with it. Maybe you're the school teacher with an amazing fashion sense. But it begins to give you clues about things that, number one, your social circle deems you to be an expert in, and number two, something that people are interested in enough that it's a viable topic. People want information about that. You can use those as clues and start to say, oh, maybe there's something here. And so, for instance, in Entrepreneurial I profiled a guy named Bozy Dar who did this, where he was getting promoted all the time at work, almost like clockwork every year. And people began to notice and say, well, how are you doing this? What's going on? And as a result, he ended up creating an online course about how to get promoted faster, and it became tremendously successful right out of the gate. His first year, in fact, that he offered it, his first full year, he earned $106,000 of just extra money above and beyond his daily, his salaried job, because he realized that people asking him these questions showed that there was interest and that people considered him knowledgeable.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And those of you that are watching this, think about that. What Dorie just said, you want to look at those other areas that you have expertise in that you might not necessarily attribute to income generation. Because many times we've seen people that are in a job and they get laid off and they go, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And feeling despondent. But looking at what she says in the book, Entrepreneurial You, get that book, by the way. She goes through in depth what to do and a lot of really good examples. You can find out ways that people said, I've been doing this, but I really enjoy doing this, and people like that. And so have someone that can help you on that as well. One of the things I also want to do here is take a look at, let's go back to the book and take a look at some of the other areas that you cited here. And I love this part, Dorie, here, where you talk about the old model, where you say the old model, the one that most of us grew up hearing about, work hard, get a good job, and you'll be rewarded. I remember that one, heard that as well. It has changed. Hard work is still mandatory, but today the work has shifted toward an ever more independent work from wherever you are business economy. The very idea of what constitutes a career has transformed. Our world has changed, and those that recognize it tend to do a lot better. How do we keep an eye on what's happening as the world is changing? Where do you go to be fed, to learn about the way these things are happening, and what nourishes your soul, your mind, so that you get new information on things like that?
Yeah, the great question. I think that the way that I stay on top of trends. I mean, first of all, I'm a huge newspaper reader as a former journalist. I know sometimes, especially in the business community, there's a little bit of, I don't know, I will call it, in a very loaded and pejorative sense, willful Philistinism, in which people say, "Oh, I never read the news. Oh, it's just useless. It just clutters your mind." Well, yeah, it clutters your mind with facts. It clutters your mind with things that people need to know.
Good point. Yeah,
And
I hope
so,
those are my competitors that are saying that.
That's right. That's right. And so, I think that that just being, reading the paper and being aware of that. I mean, I'm a huge New York Times reader. At a very basic level, it gives you a good overview sense of major things that are happening, so that you can be conversant with the world. If you want to know specifically about technology and things like that, I mean, publications like Wired are really useful, or Fast Company. But yeah, I'm a big newspaper person, and certainly I'm a big podcast consumer as well. I think it's great to listen to interviews with interesting people.
Absolutely.
And
What are some of the key podcasts that you listen to
well,
that you enjoy the most?
there's a lot that I like. In fact, I will open up my app
Oh,
and
yeah, there we go. We're doing
tell
this
you.
real live here.
Yes,
Like you, I
absolutely.
listen to a lot of podcasts also. As a matter of fact, I've heard several that you have done. And I go, oh, how nice. Dory's on today. Oh, she's on this one too. And by the way, for those of you that are writing books, this is a great way to promote your book too, because people are spending their time there listening and doing that. And good. So, Dory, what did you come up
Absolutely.
with
Yeah,
there?
the people who are listeners to podcasts are definitely book readers. Since July, I've done 130 podcast interviews in
Wow.
support of Entrepreneurial You.
Now
So
131.
that's right, exactly. So some of the great ones. I mean, I'm a big fan of The Art of Charm. I think that Jordan Harbinger, the host,
Yeah,
is
Jordan Harvey.
great interviewer. He's
I
really
was,
honed his skills over the years. The James Altucher show I listen to. I like that one a lot. Malcolm
yes.
Gladwell's Revisionist History is
Oh, mhm.
very well done. I mean, just it's not the interview sort of variety.
I'm
It's
writing that down now. Revisionist history.
Yeah, it's very interesting. He takes what sort of underrepresented historical events and then dives back into them to analyze their causes. Really fascinating.
Thank you.
And then another one that I will suggest. There's one that I like. It's a Gimlet podcast. They're the people who do Startup, which of course is also a good one. But it's called Science Versus, and it's this Australian woman. I mean, it's really hysterical, honestly. Not I'm sure for Australian people, it's very normal. But for me as an American, it's really hysterical to
Americans,
listen.
yeah.
Yeah, she just she does these things on science, and she takes sort of controversial scientific things, like, I mean, just random but interesting, like artificial sweeteners. And so it'll be like, are artificial sweeteners actually bad for you? We're going to report now.
Very good accent. I like it. It's authentic Australian. Sounds a little more Sydney area, I think.
Yeah. So I find that wildly entertaining.
Yeah. Good. And I think for those of you watching this, think about this. Podcasts are really important. There are bazillions of them. I think that's the exact number, bazillions out there. And you can be a little bit overwhelmed, but go through them. And I find you want to get like a bunch of them, because there'll be several that you like, but maybe one week it just wasn't quite right. That's okay. You go to the next one. Yep. But it's a great way to hear information. And so podcasts, I think, are great. YouTube channels or video, any of those particularly that you like to go toward and watch?
I'm not so much of a video watcher, I'll be honest. I think it's interesting. I wonder if I'm an outlier or not, because you hear again and again. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, has said the future of Facebook is video, and that people are going to be, in a few years, consuming the majority of Facebook content is going to be video content, etc. I don't know. I mean, on Facebook, in fact, I will watch videos. They are usually the ones that have written captions and have bears or raccoons or cats in them.
Okay.
I get lots of those on my feed, and I do feel like there's a place for that. I feel like my day is brightened every single day, that I can see a bit, like a picture of someone snuggling with a bear, or like there was one the other day about a donkey that, like, it was an adopted rescue donkey, and all the donkey wants to do is like hug people. And it's like, wow, that's amazing. I could watch that all day. But honestly, aside from cute donkeys, like if it's people talking, I'm not that interested in it. I like podcasts because I can do it while I'm doing something else. I do it while I'm walking or while I'm doing chores, and I'm a huge reader. So those are really my vehicles of choice. For YouTube, for me personally, it's much less, although I understand that other people consume content pretty differently.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those of you watching this, think about what's being said here. And I want you to listen and watch between the lines, because you find out there's a variety of ways that you can learn. But you want to, first of all, realize there's a lot of hope out there. For those of you that are going through something, I know many of you are going through this right now, where you might have lost your job, or you're not doing as well in your business, or you tried this entrepreneurial venture and it's just not working. Listen to what Dorie is saying.
Listen to the donkeys. Listen to the bears.
Yeah, listen to the donkeys.
yeah. That'll. If you're feeling down, like, watch a donkey hug people.
Yeah, it'll be great, because you can actually turn your mood around, which then is the first catalyst to get you moving in the right direction. And start thinking about those other options that are available, other things that you could do that you might not have thought about that could be good for income generation. Get the book, Entrepreneurial You. That can really help you. And matter of fact, even more than that, if you don't mind, Dorie, you mentioned something that is available in a self-assessment. I'd like to share a little bit of that here right now with them. And I don't know if this has been done before, but actually see it on the screen and have you talk to us a little bit about some of it. Would that be all right?
It is so awesome. And in fact, speaking of things that I do really like about video, I think it's pretty cool that you're showing this to people, Terry, so we can see in real time here. This is, in fact, the infamous Entrepreneurial You self-assessment. It is 88 questions that allow you to reflect about your own business and dive into thinking about your own business models and what might work best for you and your circumstances. So if folks are interested in that and thinking about how to bring multiple revenue streams into your own life, you can download the Entrepreneurial You self-assessment for free. Just go to my website, DorieClark.com, DorieClark.com, and it'll pop right up for you.
Very good. Yeah. And those of you watching this, get this. This is really important. It's kind of like, think about it. If you had Dorie, who's a wonderful person, you can already tell. She's just brilliant, fun to be around, the kind of person you'd want to have over for coffee. Just say, well, Dorie, come on in, have a cup of seat here. We're going to have some, what are you drinking today? You want some tea, coffee, something else? We got something. We'll have it for you. And let's go through this. And what I did What I did is I sat down, Dory, and I went through what you've got here, looking at these questions, and I just sat down here, like, for instance, look at this one here. We start with income stream audit. So imagine Dory talking to you where she says, okay, list out your current income streams. What are the ways in which you currently make money, et cetera, et cetera. And we go through a whole list of these. I would recommend do it. I mean, actually sit down and do it. Take some time, devote an hour, 2 hours or so, and go through this, because as you do it, it's going to be very, very helpful. Dory, while we've got you here, let's kind of pretend we're sitting down with either that mythical high school or school teacher that's with us, or someone who might have been laid off from the factory or whatever, and they want to, say, build their brand. You say here, what media outlets do your target audience members regularly read, watch, or listen to? What other kind of questions would you ask that person who's there mythologically? You're in their office, you're talking to them?
Sure. So if we were talking to that teacher, let's say who wants to become a fashion stylist, like a personal shopper, something like that, obviously that person, at least initially, is probably going to begin doing things in her hometown rather than on the internet, because it's easier to find people. And so what media outlets do your target audience members read, watch, or listen to? Well, for instance, one possibility is that the people in her target audience, maybe they're local professionals and she can help them dress better for work. So you might say, okay, well, my local business journal, the Boston Business Journal or Orlando Business Journal could be useful. Maybe in your local weekly paper, they take outside contributions. You could write an op-ed about fashion or style and the importance of your look in setting your brand. Maybe there's even something totally low key. Maybe there is a listserv at this person's school that circulates to parents, where people share news or ideas or information. Maybe she could do an article or make it known that she's offering that service in that listserv. So those are some initial questions that she could do. And it just walks you through all of the different steps. I mean, that's one about brand building, but certainly there would be questions about things like, how to get more referrals, or how to grow your business in different ways. And also to think in the future about other possibilities. Maybe you start with a very hands-on coaching or consulting. Maybe eventually, as you start to get more experience and traction, maybe you say, you know what? I actually do want to help people around the world, not just in my community. Maybe I should do an online course so that everybody, no matter where they are, could have access to this information.
Brilliant ideas, brilliant sage advice. And for those of you watching this is what you want to get. Go over there and get this, the self-assessment that's available. Entrepreneurial You is the name of the book, Dorie Clark, and you can go to DorieClark.com. You'll find it there. Write this down. When you think about it, this is really about hope. This is about being able to get out there in a world that has changed, a world that is changing, and you want to plug into Dorie Clark, not only for this book, but for the future. Hey, I predict that the world is going to continue to change. Dorie, how's that for a prediction?
I think you're right on, Terry.
Yeah, right on. The world is
that.
going to change. And so what you want to do is you want to marshal the support and the resources around you that can help you now and into the future. Get Dorie's book, get to know her. Later on, look at other opportunities where you can go. She mentioned coaching in her mastermind and conferences that she has. These are ways that you could sit down and go really in depth on saying, well, here I am, I'm doing this, and I need help on A, B, and C, where she can say, here's something you can do. Dorie, before we let you go, tell us any final words that you would have to that person who is thinking, okay, maybe I've got some opportunities here. I'm going to get the book. I'm going to read. I'm going to find out about Entrepreneurial You. What would you tell them before we kind of pat them on the head and send them out the door?
Nice. Thank you, Terry. Well, I would say that honestly, starting the entrepreneurial journey is in many ways, it's easier than you might imagine. I think sometimes people build it up so much, they assume, oh, I'm going to have to quit my job and I'm going to have to start a new life and it's going to be so complicated. And gosh, I just don't have the ability to do that right now. So I'll just put it off. And the truth is, that is oftentimes putting obstacles in our way, because starting to become an entrepreneur it's not an all or nothing proposition. It does not mean you have to quit your job. Not at all. In fact, I am a big supporter of the idea that we should start small, but move forward steadily. And so almost any of these things, coaching, consulting, whatever, speaking, they are things that you absolutely can do on the side now. And you explore it, you test it, you learn, you make mistakes, but the stakes are low because you are proceeding. You have the security of your day job, and you make all the rookie mistakes when it doesn't count. And it's only later that you go full throttle into entrepreneurship. You do not have to give up everything to do it. You can, if you want to be a coach, you can go out there and just email your friends. Let them know you're taking on clients. Take the first few on for free or for a discount in exchange for testimonials. Guess what? You're in business, and it starts the process and it gets the wheels moving so that you are eventually going to be ready.
I like it. And by the way, you mentioned that in the book about coaching. One of the first things you can do is get started with that. If you're in that position where you're wondering, what do I do? There's some practical nitty gritty. Here's how you do it in the book. That can help you a lot. And so for those of you watching this, you've got an opportunity now to turn things around. You don't have to be despondent. You don't have to worry if you're feeling down. Now's the time to turn around. If you need an extra edge as an entrepreneur, now's the time to do it. Dorie Clark, you're wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for writing the book, and thanks for being here today on video with us.
Terry, thanks so much. Always a pleasure talking with you.
And for those of you that are watching this, think about what you've just seen. You've seen some opportunities to be able to extend where you are to get the help you need in a concrete way. Go over to DorieClark.com. Go get that personal assessment. Doesn't cost you anything. Just go on there, get that, and start thinking about it. Push yourself a little bit farther. I encourage you and I challenge you to push yourself into that ouch area. That ouch area where you're going, I don't want to do that, but you know you need to. So do that, answer those questions, get in touch with Dorie, and I think you'll be better off for it. I know I am, because I've taken that step. I'm Terry Brock for Business Journals and for terrybrock.com. Thank you for being with us today.